my friends, and today it became known that the Netherlands is preparing to send the first 18 F-16 fighter jets. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced this on the X platform after a conversation with the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Mark Rutte.
Today, I also informed President Zelensky of our government's decision to prepare an initial 18 F-16 fighter aircraft for delivery to Ukraine. The delivery of F-16s is one of the most important elements of the agreements made on military support for Ukraine. Besides an export permit, a number of other criteria must also still be met before delivery can take place, including requirements for personnel and infrastructure. This decision confirms the Netherlands' undiminished commitment to providing Ukraine with the support it needs to respond to the ongoing Russian aggression.
Rutte added that he, together with Zelensky, also discussed the European Council's decision to initiate negotiations with Ukraine on joining the European Union.
I spoke with President Zelensky again this morning. Naturally, we discussed the European Council's important decision last week to launch accession negotiations with Ukraine. I'm impressed with Ukraine's progress so far, and the Netherlands stands ready to help Ukraine as it continues to work on the reforms that the accession process requires. I also assured President Zelensky that the Netherlands will make every effort to ensure agreement is reached at the European Council meeting in February 2024 on financial support from the EU.
Let me remind you that in Romania, with the support of the Netherlands, a training center for F-16s was opened in November, which will also host Ukrainians. According to the cooperation agreement, the Romanian Ministry of Defense provided the airbase for training, and an American company provided instructors and maintenance. Now, let's move on to the front overview, starting immediately with the Kherson direction. Here, the Russians are once again conducting offensive actions in the village of Krynky, trying to squeeze the Ukrainian Armed Forces from there. Yesterday, they even managed to break into the center of the village, but the Ukrainian Armed Forces successfully surrounded and defeated them. However, this hasn't stopped them, and they continue with assaults. The same is happening in the Krynky area on the right bank. They are intensifying shelling, understanding that most likely the Ukrainian Armed Forces are moving from there by boats to the left bank. Therefore, they are doing everything to destroy the approaches. Whether this helps them or not, we will find out soon. But the Russians describe the situation in the Krynky area like this.
The Supreme said it was necessary to squeeze them out and at the same time save the lives of our fighters. It is necessary to squeeze the enemy out of the bridgehead not with the lives of infantry, paratroopers, and marines, but with fire damage. Today, neither we nor the armed forces of Ukraine have advanced a meter. The line of resistance has not changed for 2 days. Now there is a shortage of cartridges and magazines for assault rifles in our assault units. Stormtrooper commanders are forced to send 1 or 2 soldiers after the battle to collect magazines from the battlefield, including from the bodies of the 200s.
As it seems, things are going very well for the second largest army in the world. If they are facing such significant issues even with ammunition for their rifles, now is the perfect time to make powerful moves and storm their positions. However, perhaps the plans of the general staff are different, so we'll see how events unfold. We really hoped for rapid developments, but unfortunately, the situation there remains very challenging. The Ukrainian Armed Forces consider the presence of their units on the left bank as one of the most difficult operations.
Next week, the truth about Krynky from a participant in this operation will be important. Many people have no idea of its complexity, of the effort, of the wounded, and of its heroism. This is one of the most difficult operations of our soldiers, if not the most difficult during this war. Left bank, crossing of the Dnieper.
In the Zaporizhzhia direction, today Russians have resumed attacks on Robotyne and combat clashes continue near Verbove. In this direction, the Russians have sufficient resources, as their task is to push the Ukrainian Armed Forces out of the liberated territory. The area is relatively small, only 14 by 9 kilometers. However, even here, the Russians haven't achieved success, and the Ukrainian Armed Forces are holding their defensive positions. In the Vuhledar direction, after a prolonged lull and another apparent troop repositioning, the occupiers have once again started advancing towards Staromaiorske. Shelling continues along the entire front line, so we are waiting to see how the battles will conclude this time. In the Avdiivka direction, the occupiers continue to advance in the Novobakhmutivka and Stepove areas. The General Staff reported that 17 enemy attacks were repelled here. Additionally, on the southern flank, battles persist for Prvomaiske and Nevelske, with 19 attacks repelled within a day. Attempts to consolidate positions on the outskirts of Avdiivka in the industrial zone continue, but the Ukrainian Armed Forces maintain their defense and the front line remains unchanged over the day. It is also reported that in the occupied Ilovaisk, located 45 kilometers from the front line, explosions occurred, so indicating that the Ukrainian Armed Forces are continuing to destroy the occupiers' bases. Battles for the outskirts of Marinka continue, as well as the resumption of fighting for the settlement of Pobeda, accompanied by shelling of nearby towns. Meanwhile, in the Novobakhmutivka area, fighting has temporarily ceased as the Russians initiate regrouping and only shelling is reported. In the Bakhmut direction, the number of attacks has increased. Russians are assaulting Ukrainian Armed Forces positions near Bohdanivka and have resumed attacks near Ivanivske. The situation is challenging and the Ukrainian Armed Forces are making every effort to maintain their defense, as any advance by the Russians in the Chasiv Yar area would worsen the situation. Battles continue near Klishchiivka and Andriivka, accompanied by shelling along the entire front line. The outcome of the new attacks is awaited, but no changes in the front line have been recorded within the day. In the Siversk direction, all attacks have ceased, with only minimal shelling reported. Despite a substantial attempt by the Russians to break through on multiple fronts, they incurred significant losses without achieving any advancement. In the Krymina area, the Russians faced a complete failure. Not only did they fail to improve their positions, but all attacks have ceased and the minimal shelling is reported. An official report suggesting that the Russians allegedly managed to capture some positions, but we await confirmation or refutation. In the direction of Svatove, all attacks have also ceased, with the Russians' efforts proving unsuccessful. The battles around Staromaiorske concluded unfavorably for the Russians, and the front line remains unchanged. In the Kupiansk direction, the occupiers persist in their attempts to storm Synkivka, but the Ukrainian Armed Forces successfully repel all attacks and the front line remains unchanged. In the areas of Petropavlivka and Ivanivske, the battles have ceased and only shelling continues. Overall, it's evident that the Ukrainian Armed Forces are successfully holding their defense along the entire front line, and the Russians haven't achieved any successes despite launching powerful attacks practically across the entire front line. Meanwhile, in the Czech capital, Prague on Thursday, December 21st, a shooting incident at the Karlov University building resulted in the death of 13 people. The updated information on the number of casualties was provided by the head of the Czech Ministry of the Interior the following morning. The previous evening, the police reported 14 fatalities and 25 injuries in the shooting at the university's philosophical faculty. The 24-year-old student responsible for the shooting was found dead at the scene. Authorities stated that the assailant committed suicide, even though law enforcement officers used force against him. The Czech Ministry of the Interior had early informed journalists that the shooting at the Prague University wasn't evidently linked to international terrorism. And that's all from me. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.